I'm back in the mothership. We're traveling up in Queensland doing some health talks up here in a place called Kilkivan. You probably remember a little while ago there was a major earthquake up here. So that's where we are. Information for today. I'm going to be talking about a blend. Should I tell you what the blend is, or should I wait to tell you at the end? Not sure. But many years ago, Gary had Mark's department, which is Mark or Mark Gentles, or he's changed his name. But anyway, he was Gary's right-hand man in the science department. Put together a primary active compound, and he found that myrrh oil has limonene and is very, very powerful. Limonene and limonene, sorry, yeah. It's been researched and it's shown that limonene is very active against that word called cancer. And I shouldn't be saying that here, but remember, we're talking across the table. So there was a Dr. Michael, what's his name, Gould at the University of Wisconsin, and he published a paper a few years ago a long time now, it's 1994, showing that the limonene from citrus oils, which also builds glutathione, particularly in the orange oil, it's that they were talking about at this point because it's not as high as lemongrass, but still, it's still in there, was effective against preventing cancer in guinea pigs. Now, what about sesquiterpenes? Also, Gary used myrrh oil in a product called Protec. Some of you old timers will remember that. We can't get it anymore. Thank you to the police bodies out there. Had 29% activity of sesquiterpenes in it, which are molecules that don't contain oxygen. Interesting, eh? The carbon, hydrogen, you're going to love this, 12-chain bond. I know you all know what that is. But they don't contain any oxygen molecules. Now, usually you'd say, oh, it needs oxygen, but this is the opposite. There's no such thing as one size fits all. We found that out in the last 4 or 5 years, didn't we? So Gary shared this with us. Hemoglobin in your blood is an oxygen transport mechanism, right? Sesquiterpenes in plants are oxygen transport mechanisms. And he needed us to understand that. So oxygen molecules bond to hydrogen or hydrocarbons chains and transport very quickly through the bloodstream. So these sesquiterpenes are responsible for carrying that oxygen beyond the blood-brain barrier, which is this here, stops any chemicals. Well, yeah, it actually doesn't. Chemicals that are very light in their chemical makeup get through, like petrol and thinners and alcohol and that sort of stuff. And what you spray the garden with, that horrible weed killer called, anyway, what I'm talking about. Monsanto used to make it. It stops it. That's responsible. Sesquiterpenes is responsible for carrying that oxygen beyond the blood-brain barrier. A few years ago, there was an article published in was it a medical peer-reviewed journal? A lot of stuff happened in 1994. It was back in that area. They stated that if we could find a substance that could penetrate the blood-brain barrier, we'd have a drug that would reverse Parkinson's, Lou Gehrig's, Alzheimer's, MS, all neurological diseases, right? So these sesquiterpenes can penetrate the blood-brain barrier faster than any known non-toxic substance in existence. Plenty of toxic substances can get through that blood-brain barrier, right? But there's a lot of non-toxic ones too as well. So sesquiterpenes can get through. Can you see now why this information's been buried? If you share this page, do it to trusted friends only. Don't put this information on any private pages, because this is our safe place. So you've got to remember that. So let's have a quick look at myrrh. By the way, This is in a blend. All these oils I'm talking about, I will tell you now, are in a blend called Abundance. And I think Young Living is doing something with Abundance this month. Let's take a quick look at myrrh, a closer look. Now, there's aldehydes in myrrh. Aldehydes are very calming and sedating to the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. Myrrh also is an anti-infectious, it's antiviral at +3. Also, this grading standard goes to +4, and it's a +3. So this means that myrrh oil's antiviral effect is about 75 to 80% effective. Pretty amazing. Did you know that about myrrh? Don't forget, it's very good for sunblock too. It's the number one. It's antiparasitic in its action and has a hormone-like action for the thyroid. People have thyroid issues, myrrh there. Need to put myrrh on there. Some books list it as an aphrodisiac, and as Gary mentioned, myrrh oil is not an aphrodisiac. So why did they say it was? Well, that's because it showed hormone-like activities, stimulating hormones and cleansing our receptors. There again, it's false information, and it's been published in many medical textbooks. Does not stimulate hormones. Remember that. It can't stimulate hormones because it's not a hormone. It encourages the body to produce hormones in balance when there's a deficiency only. So I'll only bring the hormones. It will only bring the hormones into balance. It won't overbalance them. It doesn't push the hormones beyond normal levels. In order for that to be an aphrodisiac, which chemicals are, it would have to push them to a high level, like the drugs. It can't happen with an oil. So if someone tells you that myrrh or any of those hormone oils, sclerosins, clary sage, pushes you beyond the ability of the body's natural understanding of what it does with those hormones, then they are misinformed, because it will not. The body does not allow it to be possible with a natural oil that has all of the frequency and all the music still in it. Second, it's very powerful as an anti-inflammatory. It's used for dysentery problems, diarrhea, viral hepatitis. I know we've been over this stuff before, but it's good to bring it back to our memory. So myrrh oil is also really good for hypothyroid. Okay, put it here. Some books say if you have a hypothyroid, then it excites a person's libido. Again, that's not true. And there's also a lot of other factors for that to be even possible. Next oil in abundance is frankincense. Then we go to the next oil. No, hang on. No, I'll leave that. Most of you know all about frankincense. But anyway, I'll go over some of this before we get to the next oil. This oil, 10% of frankincense is eugenol. It's also one of the highest in those sesquiterpenes, which are those oxygen-carrying molecules. It also penetrates the blood-brain barrier. All essential oils do that too, by the way. So there was some research conducted in the University of Vienna in Austria that was very interesting. They found that people in the actual research project were diffusing and breathing frankincense and sandalwood would increase the oxygen around the pineal gland and the pituitary as much as 28%. Now, when you think about it, what happens to the number one cause of depression? I think you all realize that. It's oxygen starvation to the brain. So if you increase the oxygen to the brain, you'll not have depression. So you don't need to take any antidepressant drugs. Just stick it in here and snort a line of frankincense instead. By the way, you know how Young Living rewards you if you put in a good order. Well, I think something's happening this month with abundance. I'd have to check with Linda or check with someone, and they'll tell you that there's some pretty interesting stuff. I think Mary's pushing frankincense and explaining that on a few of the platforms at the moment. Next one in this abundance oil is patchouli. Also contains sesquiterpenes. So it's also got alpha pinene. Frankincense does too. Patchouli is it's like very beautiful oil. 9% of it is alpha pinene. So if anyone's ever worn patchouli, you're going to get people commenting all the time. People say, that's a hippie oil. Nah, for some reason, when you put it on your skin, people notice it. So alpha pinenes that are in patchouli also go directly into the brain. They're effective in stimulating the interior pituitary. And also it affects human growth hormone. That's where human growth hormone is actually produced, in the interior pituitary. It actually gets secreted from the interior pituitary. So remember that. So human growth hormone. Everyone needs human growth hormone. That allows you to bounce when you fall over. That's why old people don't bounce when they fall over. They don't have enough human growth hormone. There's also a lot of other compounds here in patchouli. There's the sesquiterpenes, of course. They're very. They're also they've got a I think the sesquiterpenes in patchouli are 40 or 50%. So you can see that patchouli is also great as an oxygen transport mechanism to the brain. So next one, orange oil, powerful in linalool. Esters are also very calming as well. Like citronella is another powerful note, and it's very, very effective against viruses. And the aldehydes are also very calming. What about the coumarins? This is also interesting. You don't need to take Coumadin. All you need to do is drink orange oil. And there's your natural hemostat for the blood instead of taking Coumadin, which helps to balance viscosity of the blood. So you don't need that. Now, the flavonoids in this oil are also very powerful. So you remember pycnogenol years ago? There was a pycnogenol craze many years ago. They said it was very powerful. It was a very powerful antioxidant. So some of you, again, old timers, remember that. But it wasn't the pycnogenol that was doing the job. It was the antioxidant creating the benefits, which were the flavonoids. Okay. So orange oil is 100 times higher in flavonoids than that product pycnogenol. Did you know that? Next one, clove oil. Remember, these are all in our abundance. Everything so far has been oxygen creating. This is the highest antioxidant oil in the pack that exists. It's over 1,078 on the ORAC scale. And remember what the ORAC means? ORAC, oxygen radical absorbent capacity scale. They put things into like a furnace, burn it, and the amount of ash that's left gives you a reading. So that's how they get that. So it's the highest in any oil. And antiseptic effects also. It's also got very high antibacterial effects. The next one is in the list is ginger. It's also a powerful antibacterial, extremely good for the stomach. I think most of you know that. It's one of the best oils for breaking up hardened mucus in the body. So the things that can happen with this blend can help you a lot internally if you're using it orally for those conditions. So it's also got sesquiterpenes, funny enough, another oxygen one. Also very high in monoterpenes. Incidentally, the monoterpenes do contain an oxygen molecule that's bound to the hydrocarbon chain. So it becomes a transporter of oxygen molecules, and it contains oxygen as well as being a transporter for oxygen. Double whammy. So not so much as we see in some of the other oils, but it's extremely beneficial there. So in the past, it's been used as an anti-inflammatory for people with colitis and infections. The biggest bang for your buck for ginger is breaking up hardened mucus, stimulating the secretion of enzymes as well. We need enzymes. They're the light switches that make mechanisms work in the body, especially in the gastrointestinal tract. Parasites hate it. Okay. You can really see the value in ginger because that's also part of our abundance. What's another one? Spruce. Idaho spruce oil. So it also contains what they call methyl salicylate. Remember the other oil that contains methyl salicylate? It's wintergreen. Okay. So spruce oil is also a beautiful fragrance. It contains monoterpenes. So these monoterpenes and antibacterial, antifungal, antiparasitic, anti. Okay. Also contains sesquiterpenes. Funny about that. More oxygen carrying molecules. There's also the alpha pinene. A lot of this stuff has a carryover effect with each one, doesn't it? They're dovetailing. So if you take the alpha pinenes and the sesquiterpenes and put the two together, you've got a very powerful oil which is specific to the brain. If you can't think well, man, it's a good combination. The interesting thing is that we find about spruce oil is the sesquiterpenes set up a different action when combined with methyl salicylate. And it also stimulates the hypothalamus to secrete cortisone in the body, or cortisol, which is, that's the body's one from the adrenal glands. That's the hormone that regulates the inflammation associated with arthritis and osteoporosis. It also has hormone-like actions, and it stimulates the thymus gland. It's a natural cortisol steroid. Okay, so it doesn't push you over the limit. It has an action, a positive action on the ovaries. It's a general tonic for the nervous system and the solar plexus. So pretty powerful. It's very grounding as well. So do you know anyone who has bipolar? I bet you do. It's a silly question. Everyone does. Spruce oil is perfect for that issue. Try it on them. It's used for inflammation of the prostate, which is benign prostatic hyperplasia, which a lot of men get. So spruce is good for bringing that inflammation down. Hypothyroid, rheumatism. What else? People have a suppressed immune system. So who doesn't like spruce? Especially for fighting candida and acne or eczema. Spruce oil. Stuff. You got to keep going over this information because we keep forgetting that that's what it's for. And look at it, it's in the abundance. It's, I think the last one is it cinnamon? I think so. In Egyptian times, cinnamon has been known for helping in prosperity. So it's part of in the mixture of the oil called thieves, used by the grave robbers back in the 15th century. It's also associated with the ability to attract wealth. Wonder why it's in abundance, eh? If you're lucky enough to have cinnamon during the Egyptian times, you're considered a wealthy man, a bit like frankincense, eh? So the value of cinnamon might have been back then, I believe, close to the value of gold. Now, cinnamon is the pancreas's best friend. I'm getting cold in the mothership. It's about 35 degrees outside. I've got the air running straight off the sun. How's that? Been running all day. I love it. So yeah, did you know that? So why is Gary putting all of this oxygen stuff in this blend? Have you guessed it yet? People lack abundance, right? The people's lack of abundance starts in the brain. That's where we get they call brain paralysis about finances, about being able to do more and greater than what we set out for in our life when we were just teenagers. So that's why people stay stuck. Well, they get put into a box. They don't get out of that box until, well, sometimes never. Right? So you've got to have a vision. This can give you a vision. You can't have a vision while you've got brain paralysis. So you might have a feeling or a desire. So to want to do something, and you need that feeling, you need to put on abundance. And I don't know, you could become, I never wanted to be a public speaker, but I've been publicly speaking for like 20 years now. And I didn't know I was ever going to do that. If you want to be more financially secure, if you want to, like, for helping you with the business, if you want to get your health back right, you can do it. Excuse me, use the oil, right? So that was the physical side of the oils. On the spiritual side and emotional side, Gary chose these oils for abundance. So for the very reason that myrrh, frankincense were the two oils that were brought to the Christ child, they were the gift. And during their history, for 3,000 years, myrrh and frankincense were regarded as more valuable than gold. You know, the kings and the pharaohs possessed frankincense and myrrh they had it in their possession. They also traded land. They traded wives. They traded anything, right? The oils were their barter system. I think we're going to need that again today. That was the means of money. They believed that those who possessed the most oil attracted the greatest wealth. So that's a 5,000-year-old history behind the oils having a legacy of attracting wealth. That's the energy that's attached to these types of oils or these blends. So patchouli is another one that was used in India for attracting wealth, as I showed you earlier. Clove was another one that came from southern India. So those who possess clove attracted wealth. Spruce and ginger. So look, using abundance oil can, like Gary years ago, when he was building the business up, he put clove abundance on his phone, and also tipped the bottle into a paint tin, and they painted the whole office with it. And he still, he'd always use that as an example that would bring on more abundance in his life in all areas. It was very energetic for attracting that excitement, that interest. So you never know. Try it. I mean, look at the orange oil. It creates happiness anyway. It creates a feeling of joy, ease, and peace inside. So if you're going to attract wealth, why not attract it with joy and ease? Not attract it because your mother-in-law was hit by a piece of space junk falling from the sky and you got her estate. Not the good way. You don't want to get wealthy that way. You want to do it in an ethical way and helping others. So enjoy your use of abundance. So I'll get hold of this bottle of abundance. So Linda, what's happening with abundance this week? Oh, yeah, that's right. Hey, if you comment on this post,
Things that have happened to them.
yeah, stuff that's happened to you with abundance oil, you're going to get put into a draw this month, October, and we will pull your name out of a hat and you'll be sent a free abundance oil, thanks to Linda. So how about you give that a go? All right, well, that's about it for me. I've got a talk to do now over in the cafe over here in Kilkevin. So talk to you soon. Enjoy your abundance oil.